Hello everybody, thank you for joining us. Quick reminder, this is the third in a series of webinars that we run. The webinars are meant to be informative, they're meant to be punchy, they're meant to be short snippets that get you and provide information on cloud, what cloud is, how you get to cloud, and certain other aspects of living in the cloud world. Today we're going to focus on reporting in Cloud ERP and the importance of actually beginning to use some of the data that you're starting to collect and gather. In terms of presenters, by way of introduction to myself, Phil Wilson, SVP at Inoapps, been here for 10 years, was one of the founding members. For the last 4 or 5 years, I've spent a lot of time looking at cloud as a marketplace, looking at how we deliver fast, effective solutions into that marketplace, and look at how we wrap other products around that. And we'll talk a bit about that in some of the other webinars, and I'll remind people of the background to how we got to today a bit later on. Also joining me today is Ed. Ed, do you want to do a quick introduction to yourself?
Thanks very much, Phil. Yep, Ed Jeavons. I look after our enterprise performance management and business intelligence division at Inoapps. So that focuses a lot around the reporting, and I shall be doing a little demonstration at the end as well.
Cool, thanks, Ed. Quick reintroduction for those of you who join us for the first time. So Inoapps has been going for 10 plus years. Obviously now around about 350 staff globally. Started out in the UK. Expanded then into Asia Pac, and then more recently, 2 years ago, went and created a competency in the US as well. We have been using internally Oracle Cloud Solutions for many years. So we were one of the first customers live on ERP Cloud, HCM Cloud, and EPM Cloud, and sales and marketing. Therefore, we've got some experience. We know what the experience is like. We know how to use it. We're a platinum partner because we've got the offshore delivery capability through Malaysia or Asia Pacific. That gives us the ability to be quite nimble and agile. I think more importantly, and particularly given the subject matter we're talking about, we've been recognised multiple times as being the UK SaaS Cloud Partner of the Year. More recently and more proudly for ourselves is that we, in 2016, this year, we won not just the UK one, we also won the EMEA one, and also because we won the EMEA one, we got put forward to the Global Award and actually successfully picked up the Global Award a couple of months ago in San Francisco. Great accolade for us. It's actually voted for by IDC, so an independent body. So again, great recognition of the investment and commitment we have to cloud. I'm going to flick through a couple of slides. So one of the things you'll see with us is that we have been doing these projects now for a number of years. Therefore, we've got multiple customers where we can talk about the experience, multiple customers that are live, multiple customers that are using different pillars, whether it be finance, whether it be procurement, whether it be HCM, Taleo, CX, whether they've got EPM implemented or if they've got any of the other products. So we have a range of stories, probably more than anybody else, in terms of where we've delivered this stuff, how long it took, the issues we had, how we got over those issues, and our experience. And this series of webinars is all about sharing those experiences. So as you can see there, there's 2 slides of customer type references. What I now want to do is just take you back a couple of sessions to the background. Obviously, Oracle's cloud applications have now been out for many years. The one thing I would say about them, and the differentiation for Oracle, is that they are a complete solution. They're fully integrated. They're a modern set of applications, and obviously they cover the whole breadth of functionality, whether it be ERP, HCM, CX, or EPM. This is where, again, I think Oracle differentiates itself from some of its customers because they don't just focus on one product area; they focus across the piece. Embedded, or this is all built on an architecture that allows for standard integration, allows for analytics, allows for mobile, allows for social. So you've got the ability to take these applications, deploy them in a cloud model, and get the benefits of cloud, such as making, getting up and running quickly with less upfront costs and investment risk. Ensuring consistent standard processes. This is a cloud software, so the way you deploy this, the way you can use this software, the way that business as usual becomes moving forward changes in the cloud world. And again, we'll talk about business as usual in the cloud world in one of the later sessions, I think in February. You can boost productivity. You can take the opportunity to eliminate the need for expensive customizations. I think many companies have got experiences where they've created a customization because the functionality didn't quite meet their requirements or didn't exist, and they've spent a lot of money building an extension, building a customization that they've then had to upgrade at some point. Major cost, no real business benefit at times in doing that upgrade. In the new world of cloud, you will get upgrades. You know, the whole philosophy of cloud is that the software stack is standard across the board for all customers. Therefore, everybody can consume automatic upgrades. And automatic upgrades are normally two releases per year. And one of the things that has changed radically is that now you've got all these wonderful standard processes. Now you've got it up and running quickly. Now you've got rid of all the customizations, and now you're actually using the system to gather data. One of the things we've seen in a lot of our projects is people starting to want to focus on how to make better use of the data, how to make better use of the information you're capturing. And I think we've seen a lot of projects in on-prem world where they've captured lots of data and done nothing with it to improve the business process, which is absolutely not what you're trying to do. You're trying to take information to drive your business forward and increase the cost benefit that you're seeing. So today we're going to focus on that. Today we're going to talk predominantly around reporting and the options in cloud. Ed is going to talk you through what is available in the standard offerings that Oracle has, and also take you through a demonstration. So Ed, I will hand over to you.
Thank you very much, Phil. One of the things I wanted to go through here is a few of the different elements that we have within the application suite, assuming that we have a kind of best in breed, if you like, ERP in terms of Oracle. So this could apply as well to HCM, and I'll differentiate out the bits and pieces that apply to each of the modules. So let's just talk about the landscape first and foremost. So we've got the Transactional BI. This is known as Oracle Transactional Business Intelligence, so OTBI. And what are we able to do with this? Well, out the box, you get several dozen different dashboards and reports and hundreds of individual different analysis that give you commonly used metrics. So that might be something like a late debtors report. That might be some expense analysis. That could be the number of staff per department if we're talking from a HCM perspective. In terms of what the reports are, so these are very similar to, if anyone's familiar with Oracle's business intelligence platform, these look a lot like OBIEE dashboards and reports. So they're made up of individual analysis, and they're built on subject areas, which are effectively predefined areas of data that have been combined together from the underlying tables within Fusion ERP. Now, of course, with ERP, we are looking to adopt modern best practices, as Phil's alluded to, and as a result, we don't really have exposure, if you like, to those underlying tables. So Oracle have created a number of these different subject areas from which we can pull data. Now, these are very good out the box, but it's unlikely that they're going to be one size fits all and work in their entirety for everyone in terms of fulfilling all your requirements. So whilst this here might give you an age debt report, for example, you might want to amend that age debt report because you like to look at different buckets or groupings of days. You know, it might say 15 to 30 days. You might look at 20 to 40 days, for example. So you might be able to tweak these within the limits and the confines of those subject areas. Suffice to say, though, these are fairly easy to kind of create and configure yourself if you are familiar with Oracle BI. If you're not, still not a massive job to be able to learn how to amend the existing reports that you have to include your own logos, your own text, and of course, any of your own metadata will be in the report already. For example, your entities would appear within the reports, your different chart of accounts would be there if we were looking at some sort of financial report in there. So the key thing to remember about the OTBI reports is they are transactional based, and that is to say it's giving us that real-time reporting. So what is my age debt position right now, to continue the example I've been using. So this won't give me my age debt position over time that I could go back and historically look at. We'll bear that in mind for a future report we're about to talk to. So BI Publisher. BI Publisher is again a legacy tool within the Oracle suite. You could well be using this if you are already using on-premises ERP. So it's ideal for those kind of high volume and highly formatted transaction-based reports. We can see a couple of very small examples up the top here, but some of the common things that you might be producing with BI Publisher would be your invoices and indeed shipping labels, which are the two examples you see in the little screenshot up there. Effectively, this allows a developer who's a little bit more au fait with, for example, SQL, to go in, write their own data model to bring back some data that they wanted to get that wasn't already exposed to them in the subject area. They could write their own calculations even within there, and they could pull data from various different subject areas and be able to create their own bespoke reports on that kind of highly formatted and printable format. You can export these in any different number of ways that you can see listed there. The most common ones would be the PDF report to generate right out of the system, and indeed to export something out directly into Excel. And you could be writing these BI Publisher reports because you want to export data out of your ERP to a third-party system that might be non-Oracle for some other usage. And again, Excel would be a pretty good format for that, or indeed XML or CSV. Indeed, we can also automate the bursting and the production of these using the functionality within the ERP. So both of these two, OTBI and BI Publisher, are available from within that very same frame set, that same window that we would have for ERP as we accessed it across the cloud. And they are both looking at transactional data coming from those subject areas. So now, moving on, we're going to take a look at something that can report on the actual balances data. So Oracle SmartView is an add-in for Microsoft Office. It was born out of the Hyperion toolset, if anyone's familiar with Oracle's corporate performance management, or enterprise performance management as it's known within Oracle's system. It's Oracle Hyperion, also available via the cloud, but SmartView effectively comes from that pedigree. What it does is it takes a number of balances from within your GL, and it puts them into what we call a cube reporting database. So if you're not familiar with multi-dimensional databases, you don't need to sort of get into too much detail. Suffice to say, it's a very nice way of storing data in a different style to the standard repository format. It allows us to store data in a way that we would refer to as multi-dimensional, which allows us to very nicely pivot through data, be able to drill and zoom into data and drill up and down through hierarchies. So very nice and visual, and lends itself to being very interactive, especially with those users that might want to inquire into balances in Excel. So very much something that would empower a finance community. It is live, so any of the balances will be updated in real time as that data comes into the GL. You can create those reports in Excel, but you can also copy them, those reports, and export them directly into things such as Microsoft Word or indeed Microsoft PowerPoint. So if you had a board report that you had to give every month around the current profit and loss, or at the end of each week, you could create that report in PowerPoint once, and you would simply go in and click refresh every time you wanted to see the updated numbers. So you wouldn't have to recreate or do any extra export each and every time. Now, these are aggregated balances. It doesn't go all the way down to transaction level. So, for example, we might have expenses by a cost center or by a department or a granular entity in there. We wouldn't necessarily have the individual expense or the individual transaction that took place within our subledgers in there. The nice thing about these is that one user could create their own SmartView report and then share that with another user who, as long as they had suitable access, would be able to reconnect that report and see the data that applied to them. All the security provisioning that you have within the core ERP applies throughout all these different reporting options that we've spoken about up until now. So SmartView, a nice Excel window into your data, but it's also two-way. So if you had some areas that you would want to submit data, for example, we've got some customers who have an ERP that has an open budget scenario, then you could use SmartView to submit that data back into the ERP as well at that balance level. So it's two-way reporting and submission. One of the nice things about SmartView as well is, as I've alluded to, it is a tool that's come from Oracle's Hyperion stack, or their EPM stack, and as such, it's actually a common tool that we have with Oracle's Planning and Budgeting Cloud Service application, and indeed their Financial Consolidation Cloud Service application. So it's literally the exact same tool. So starting to get some commonality across Oracle's finance suite in terms of the reporting tool that we have access to. Now, in a similar vein, also on the balances side of things, we have Oracle financial reports. So these here might, on the face of it, look a little bit similar to our BI Publisher reports, and I'll talk to some of the differences in just a second, but we call these financial reports, and they are built in the Financial Reporting Studio. So again, common technology when it comes to the EPM suite that we've alluded to. So Oracle's Planning and Budgeting Cloud Service, Oracle's Financial Consolidation Service also utilizes this very same technology, literally the same reports and the same builder. What's the difference? Well, this here again is on balances. So any of the data that's stored in that Essbase cube, we're able to create reports with. The reports can be defined down to what we would refer to as sort of pixel perfect. In terms of you can change absolutely everything on them, be it the font, the coloring, the thickness of the lines between them. We can have conditional formatting there for negative numbers, parentheses, etc., etc. We can also include any company logos that you might have, and we can include things like who ran the report, when was it run, any of that sort of attribute data, if you like, around the reporting. These here typically used for things such as if I wanted to create just an income statement and a balance sheet that I wanted to bring out at a balance level every month, then this would be a great place to do that and to replicate the existing format of any of those management style reports that you might already have within the business. Equally, they can be opened as a HTML or indeed a PDF. If you open them as a HTML, then you can have some interactive filters in there as well. So you could choose from a drop-down list, and view data by different entities. And you can have some hierarchy on the actual report itself. So you'd be able to kind of drill into the report and drill down into any hierarchical metadata that you had there. For example, we might be looking at a total company balance sheet, and then I could drill down into my different regions and see the different balances for each of those. Or indeed, thinking about that on a different dimension, I might have my chart of accounts, and I might be able to drill into other operating expenses and see all the different relevant lines within that hierarchy. So a little bit more interactive if you use them as HTML reports, but frequently exported as PDF as well. And indeed, these can now be exported to Excel directly as well. So a few different means at getting it at the data. So just to demystify that and to kind of recap on that, OTBI gives us that fully fledged dashboard look and feel, allows us to view some of the more attractive analysis within here, and indeed we can have any of the sort of filters and kind of triggers on those different reports that allow us to view different snapshots of data. BI Publisher, far more for containing lots of different transactions that you might want to export, so good for things like invoices. You might want to do an export to bank, for example, that you might write in BI Publisher. SmartView and FR, far more suited for the finance user, I would say. SmartView especially allows them to go in, interrogate balances, ask questions of the data, and very quickly drill in, pivot, create their own reports in a tabular format. And then financial reporting, very good for those repeated reports that you might want to do, things such as financial statements, etc. A little bit more highly formatted, doesn't require someone to have to log into the system either, because of course we can create those as PDFs and share those accordingly. So on top of that, what else are options? We've mentioned that we've got 4 different kind of tools there, and that's just concentrating on one area, such as ERP. Now, we have different levels of those tools available across the entire cloud suite, if you like, of EPM, ERP, HCM, and CX. So, for example, CX does not benefit from SmartView, neither does HCM, whereas EPM and ERP do. In a similar vein, EPM doesn't benefit from the OTBI reporting, whereas ERP and HCM do. So there's a little bit of a mixture of the different reporting types across the different cloud applications that Oracle has in the suite. But what can sit on all of them is BICS. So Oracle's BI cloud service is an enterprise scale overarching business intelligence and reporting tool that allows us to curate and create different reports based on different user groups. So those could be central finance users, it could be management users, or indeed it could be down on the ground operational users, and allows them to see a view of their data. And the most powerful thing here is it allows them to see a combination of data. So we might want to view our planning and budgeting data alongside some of our, for example, expenses data that we're getting out of ERP, alongside some of our HR data. We want to see the expenses by individual employees and know what their kind of grade type is. And we might want to look at that in line with some of our opportunities that we're storing within our CRM. So that might be 4 different data sources, and none of the aforementioned tools would be able to span all 4 of those regions. BI Cloud Service as an overarching enterprise reporting layer allows us to do that. And we can make some quite quick wins with this, and this could be a pretty good tool when it comes to return on investment, because for not a lot of investment, you can get quite a lot of reporting back out of this. What is it? Ostensibly, it's Oracle's Business Intelligence Enterprise Edition platform, but this time it's built to span every single module, and it can, of course, be reporting on historical periodic data. So it's not just real-time transactional reporting. Also, alongside the BI Cloud Service, we get access to the data visualization piece. So Oracle's data visualization capabilities have come a long way in the last 3 years. They have a great tool now, which is known as Oracle's Data Visualization Cloud Service, which comes as part of that BI Cloud Service offering. So that gives people the ability to, in a visually rich environment, create their own analysis and ask questions and interrogate data from the predefined data sources that we have, but also indeed they could just upload a spreadsheet and start doing some really nice reporting and grab some insights from a piece of data that they could just upload straight into the cloud. So underpinning Oracle's BI Cloud Service, there is, of course, a database in the cloud, and we would be looking at replicating certain pieces of data and indeed drawing directly from certain Oracle applications in the cloud. Remembering this is all part of one suite and one family of cloud service tools, and they all integrate together really quite tightly. So to talk to that point, we actually have and use this internally. As Phil alluded to, we're actually a big user of Oracle's cloud technology. We use not only BICS, but indeed, of course, the ERP, the HCM, the CRM, and indeed the PBCS tool for our planning and budgeting of individual projects. Alongside that, of course, we've got some non-Oracle tools as well, which even we will admit. So we've got ServiceNow for our incident tracking and management system for our managed services desk. And indeed, we've got some third-party tools that we use as well, which we've built in Oracle's Apex. So we combine lots of different data, and we can have one holistic view of the world in Oracle's BICS. And I wanted to just take a quick view of that, which I can show right here within the grid on my screen. So we'll take a quick look at how we report over various different Oracle Cloud pieces of technology using BICS. Now, clearly, there's a lot going on in terms of the different reporting capabilities, and a half-hour webinar wouldn't be enough to show all of the different things that we could be showing. So let me just log in here. So I'm just logging in. You see I had the single sign-on availability there as well, but unfortunately, because I'm coming into a demo instance, I can't use my single sign-on. So I've got a demo user up here. So within BICS, I have a number of different dashboards available to me, and in fact, I could go in and start modeling and creating my own. As an end user, though, I might just come in and be taken straight to this view here, where it's quite sort of obvious what it is I'm looking at. So we've got a management user here that would be looking at data from across the business. So the first view I have here would be my CRM data. So here I can see the different count of how many opportunities I have in my pipeline as a professional services organization. What's the actual total, monetarily speaking, of each of those? What is my budget? How do those two things compare? And then I could look at those same values again cumulatively. So here's some of the examples of some of the visualizations we've got. So we've got some stacked bar graphs there, along with a line there showing me where my cumulative budget is. Moving down the page a little bit on my dashboard here, I can also see at a glance across my sales organization. These are all my different salespeople, and I can see where their different opportunities are in this funnel diagram here. So clearly within a sales organization, we should be trying to top up this funnel as much as possible, and then we hope that, you know, down toward the bottom we start winning a given percentage of those. You can see at the moment we're in the great position of having lots of things at the final stage and the one contract. But at a glance, that sort of tells me, we need to top up that hopper. We need to make sure we're filling up the pipe with identified opportunities, because at the moment that represents less than 32%. And you can see we've got some validation with respect to the colors on this dashboard here. So a nice overarching view for our sales manager to just take a look at the individual division, and we can drill into some of these metrics and go into a little bit more detail. As I go into my report, so this is a really nice one that kind of shows the difference between the different pieces of data we have in here. So our pipeline and backlog is the measure by which we run our business effectively. I've got two different views of the world here. I've got my different operating regions, be that the Far East, UK, or EMEA ostensibly, and I've got the ASEAN region, and indeed I've got that by different divisions here. So I'm able to view the individual actuals, my backlog, my pipeline, and my outturn for each of these. So this is actually a combination of different data sources. The actual will be coming from my ERP data source. My backlog will be coming from my resource forecasting system. So that's work that we've won, that we've yet to deliver. And there's two different categories of that. Things where we know who's going to deliver it, and things where we don't, assigned and unassigned respectively. My pipeline comes from my planning and budgeting cloud service and my EPM applications there. And indeed, we can apply a weighting on that based on what the CRM data is telling us for each of those opportunities. My forecast outturn is therefore a concatenation of the weighted pipe alongside my actuals and my assigned backlog, which effectively gives me my cumulative to find when compared to the budget. So my forecast outturn, 15 million there, I need to find another 6. And the great thing about this view is within each of these, I can go in and I can say, right, pipeline for tech, let me drill that by month. And I'll be able to drill all the way down to the level of detail and find out what makes up that overarching number I see. So I can see here, for example, I've got a weighted pipe of 269 for March. So I could say, well, what are the different opportunities? Show me the deal reviews for each of those opportunities straight out of my my CRM. And that the way the project is profiled out over months is what we're doing in is PBCS there. So I can see how many days per month, what's the duration, and that could differ. I could have 5 days one month, 10 the next, etc., etc. And so from that very high level view of the world, I can drill all the way down and find out that this salesperson here, who's been anonymized, has an opportunity at this company, and it's for this many days of this resource type, and I can see what's the weighting type that this individual has applied to that opportunity. So I can get a very granular level of the data that makes up my forecast, and it gives me so much more confidence to be able to report within this. So just moving on through in the last couple of minutes here, we've also got the ability to take a look at individual projects within our ERP. We can see what's the project performance, how many days have been booked to that, and who's been booked to it. So combining again some data from our HCM side of things, I could see what's the grade of the employee that we're using on any of these. Let me choose one. I'll choose this. I can go down to the details by the billing type here, and I can see the budget versus the actual, both financially speaking, i.e. What's the revenue that we've booked, but indeed I can also see that as a product of the number of days. And within the number of days, I could find some actual days here, and I could actually drill down and take a look at those by month, and then I could find that individual's timesheet and see when did they book what hours to what project. So again, if I continue that, I can say, let's take a look at these guys here, and I'll drill all the way down to the individual timesheet. I'll be able to see what was the date that they applied that to the timesheet, how many hours was that, and how is that rolled up. So again, we've just gone from the very top of the tree, if you like, in terms of seeing a pipeline and backlog. I can drill all the way down into an individual project and see an individual person's timesheet. And indeed, at each of those levels, there's various pieces of analysis I can do, and I could export out to Excel or PDF, whatever the case may be on those. So just final thing we'll take a look at on here, on the expenses side of things. So expenses is a nice one that we often analyze. We look at things in terms of whether it's billable to a project or non-billable. And we can see within the billable expenses, I could look at all the stuff that's been through billing, and I could go down to a project level, to a person level, or indeed to a division level. I'll pick person and we'll drill into that by people. And then I would get a kind of ranking of who's billing the most expenses that are billable in this case. So I can see there's someone here who's got 45,000. That's in fact our internal corporate credit card. So this will be for things like centrally booked travel. But I could get a detailed report of that if I wanted to interrogate that a little bit further. And I could drill down and find each of these different trains, planes, hotels, etc. And I could see what was the project they were billed on, whereabouts was the client, and indeed. I'd be able to go in and see who's the actual individual person that booked these. In this case, they're all this low individual here. But again, gives me that nice analysis. And if I want to, I could just dump that straight out into Excel using 2 clicks there. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of a view, albeit in a very short sort of 5-minute period, of some of the things that we're able to do using BI Cloud Service on top of our ERP reporting environment. Equally, though, we use a number of these different tools at different levels. So that is not to say that is the only answer. There's a couple of bits and pieces that you may be able to gain just by starting to use SmartView, for example, or starting to use financial reporting. And I think this is really going to depend on what your culture is and who your user group are. And we'd be more than happy to talk through that in a little bit more detail. So with that, I think we're running at 14:35 right now. So I'd like to open it up, see if we do have any questions along the way. But if we don't, then we shall be sending out the recording of the webinar to everyone, and we would happily answer any questions that you might have around the reporting tools that we've alluded to today, and indeed go into more detail on any of those. So with that, I will close the webinar, and thank you very much for watching.